Welcome to the Sci-Fi Rancher story. Here you find the best HFY story written by human. Listen the story. If you like it, subscribe the channel.
Junior researcher Meline Brooke sat down. At her desk, steaming cup of coffee in hand, ready to live out another uneventful day at SETI. She rubs her eyes, with one hand setting her cup down on her desk, with another reclining back in her chair to stretch. She lets the aroma of her coffee win over her senses, and she reaches for her cup. As she reaches for her cup, her eye catches something unusual on her monitor. Madeline immediately forgets about her coffee. Leaning forward in her chair rapidly, the data filling her screen is erratic and crazed. None of it makes sense. David, get over here. David, her supervisor, walked lazily towards her desk. What is it this time? Another discovery of great import. Meline hears a crash behind her and she whips around to see what happened. The broken remains of a coffee cup lay scattered across the ground, the liquid it once contained seeping across the floor. As she gazes upward at her supervisor's face, she sees his usually bright and happy expression replaced by shock. His tan skin had gone as pale as a ghost, losing all semblance of the man she knew. Get NASA on the phone now. We need to verify our telescopes are working properly. Yes, sir. Meline hurriedly stood up from her chair and ran to the nearest secure telephone, dialing the government agency she had looked up to her entire life. David moved closer to his coworker computer, blinking rapidly to see if his eyes were seeing correctly. Every time he reopened his eyes, the image in front of him stayed the same, yet to the racing mind of David Stone it made absolutely no sense. Within 2 hours David was sitting in front of the president. At his side was the head of NASA, Bob Daniels. He was expected to explain the phenomena he had just witnessed to the president and his cabinet. Also in the room were the Joint Chiefs of Staff, glaring towards David like hawks scoping out prey. Earlier today a massive surge of energy was emitted from the earth, asked the president, his face gaunt and pale, a bead of sweat dripping from his forehead. How is that possible? I don't know. The amounts of exotic particles were off the charts. Our telescopes have been flooded with this for the past 2 hours. Bob Daniels leaned forward and spoke. NASA satellites have detected this surge as well. It is coming from the entire surface of the earth. It is strongest over the continents but weak over Antarctica. What could have done this? Murmured the president before speaking more clearly. Do we know the cause? The room went silent for a few seconds and no one dared speak. The president's eyes locked with David's. His eyes shone fear and confusion directly into David's soul. David quickly broke eye contact and looked towards the ground before he spoke. Nothing within our current understanding of physics can explain this. General White's growly voice broke the silence with a commanding bark. The Chinese, Russians, and all of NATO are asking us who did it. We need a better answer than the goddamn laws of physics. With all due respect, sir, we have nothing to offer you. None of this data makes any sense. Make it make sense, then the world isn't standing still while you eggheads figure it out. In another 2 hours David was now in Houston, trying desperately to help NASA come up with an answer. He was in a massive conference room where all the brightest minds in America had been called to figure out whatever this was on a massive video screen. Countless other scientific conferences across the world were also convened. The room was a chaotic mess of yelling and shouting. Every person had a different theory. Every country had a Different agenda and no one truly understood what was happening back at SEI. Meline was still poring over data that was coming back from the satellites aimed at the sky. Nothing was being detected over the insane background noise being emitted from the Earth detectors all across the planet were going haywire, and intense amounts of exotic forms of radiation were being detected. The strangest part of this whole ordeal was that these particles were being emitted by the Earth itself, or so it seemed. Meline felt like she was on the precipice of figuring it all out. Something deep within her told her to keep trying. She stared at a preliminary map of the radiation being emitted from the Earth. What stood out to her was the seemingly random distribution of the emission locations across the Earth. She nervously turned to the small television in the room with her. The images on it filled her with an overwhelming sense of dread. Someone had leaked the situation to the public. It wasn't good. All across the world, riots and general unrest were consuming human cities like wildfire. She thought about her parents back home in Sacramento, and that's when it all clicked. The emissions weren't coming from the Earth, they were coming from the people. She frantically searched for maps of human distribution across the planet on her laptop. To both her horror and relief, the map of background radiation matched up perfectly. Then the power went out. Her best guess was that some rears had disrupted the power lines, and she reached for her cell phone to figure it all out. When she pulled it out, however, it was completely dead. Meline bolted outside to the backup generator, trying desperately to turn it on, but it wasn't responsive. Her mind raced for some sort of plausible solution. As she got into her car, she turned the ignition, but it wouldn't start. Meline looked to the sky and realized she couldn't see the glow of any city lights. She had just been hit by some sort of EMP. She was stuck at the observatory, subject to whatever would happen next, and that's exactly when it happened. The entire sky was engulfed in a burning glow of white. The atmosphere began to boil, everything on the surface along with it. Meline was dead before the signals of light had even reached her brain. The city of Sacramento, SETI, Meline, and everyone subject to the atmosphere was gone before they had time to even blink. The entirety of human civilization, like a small flame, was snuffed out by the most energetic release of energy in all recorded history. But nothing was recorded anymore. Everyone, everything, anything that had ever seen or known of human civilization was completely decimated in the span of a few seconds. This explosion wouldn't go down in history because there was no more history, there was no more humanity, and there was no more memory. Then things went from bad to hell. On what was once Earth, the energy released by the sudden strike cracked the planet, not just splitting it into small chunks but completely vaporizing it. The Earth had just been hit with a weapon traveling just a fraction of a fraction below the speed of light. The Earth was no more. Sadie had found what it was looking for, but thanks to that discovery it would never know that it had achieved its goal. Intelligent life had found humanity. Their answer to the question, "Are we alone?" was swift and absolute no, but we are all of humanity's great struggles. War accomplishments, technology and philosophy were erased from the universe, never to be known, never to matter. Human existence was meaningless, and every single trace was destroyed along with the Earth. Original essay, System Earth 3591. It has come to my attention that another dimensional anomaly has been discovered and subsequently contained. This is the 5th time this week that an Exotic anomaly has been detected and the 17th variant of humanity we have destroyed overall alternate versions of Earth have been popping up constantly. Ever since the 5th day of last month. This timeline roughly coincides with the activation of our zero-point reactor. Here on terra firma, while only a coincidence, I find it of the utmost importance that we solve the issues present in our reactor causing this event. While multiple theories have emerged about said anomalies, the one I find most plausible is the continuation of the many worlds theory in regards to conscious. It would appear that if a universe containing life is annihilated for energy, the living beings within that universe would be evicted into our space. This is consistent with the sudden appearance of new matter within the universe, as well as the anomalies caused by this new matter. The human beings of alternate dimensions, as such, it is my formal recommendation that we shut down the reactor until we can figure out how to avoid this unfortunate consequence. The loss of human life in any circumstance is regrettable, even if necessary for the continuation of our universe. Our containment methods are effective but are not absolute. If we encounter full space-faring humanity, we will need more than relativistic kill missiles to get the job done. Professor David Stone, Ph.D., Director of Applied Sciences at Terra Energy Corp.